I tell you what, boys, shall I start doing the introduction now, and that will give you the maximum amount of time possible for your talk, because I know you've got a lot to pack in.
Go for it, Jess.
So we've got 59 people and counting, and they're coming in more and more as we speak. It's gone up to 60 as I'm speaking. Good morning, everybody, from sunny Barcelona, or wherever you are at the moment. Sunny Dublin, okay, sunny Glasgow. And welcome to the session. We're in Zooming around with Euan Paul and Harry Waters. Right. Harry Waters. Just to make sure that you're in the right session. My name is Jessica. I'm the area coordinator for TESOL-SPAIN here in Barcelona, and I'm just going to introduce them and do a little bit of housekeeping before they start. So Harry and Euan are based in Valencia, just outside Seville. Harry and Euan are both involved with Renewable English, which is, I believe, a course for raising environmental awareness. And they've both been involved in TESOL for TEFL, EFL for quite a long time, but they are neighbours and their little daughters are best friends, which means that, you know, they spend quite a lot of time in each other's company.
We're forced to spend time with each other's company.
Whether you like it or not. Okay, a couple of things. If you are here as an homologación attendee, there will be a couple of questions in the chat, one nearer the beginning and one nearer the end, that you should answer. Okay, you need to answer these questions in order to get your homologación certificate. I don't know if you have the option of turning the camera on, but if you do, please keep your camera and your microphone off unless the speakers ask you to do otherwise. If you have any comments, any conversations, you can write in the chat box as you're doing now. Fantastic. If you have any questions, put them in the Q&A box, which is a separate section on the right-hand side. I don't know if Harry and Euan will have time to answer questions at the end, but they will have access to the Q&A box. So if you have any burning questions, you can ask them and they can write to you later. If you have any technical problems, please just refresh the page. That usually works. And if anybody's interested in the certificates, these will be sent out at the end of the convention. Okay. And with no further ado, I'm going to hand over with great delight to Harry and Euan. I've had great fun with them so far just in the preparation for this session, so I know you're going to enjoy it enormously. Over to you, boys.
Thank you very much. We have also enjoyed preparing it an awful lot, so hopefully you guys will also enjoy it. I'm going to start by sharing my screen, but I can't guarantee it'll be on the right page because this is a new computer and I'm slowly getting to grips with it. So before we do start, I'd like to point out that this session is prepared for online classes. It can also be used in hybrid classes. And what we really wanted to do was kind of bring the focus away from the teacher and onto the student to get them as involved as possible. So yeah, these are all no and low prep activities, fine for both of them. And this is Euan, who'd like to say hello.
Hi guys.
There you go.
Morning.
But there, as we mentioned, there isn't a lot of time. This is an hour-long session that we're cramming into 45 minutes. So if we're speaking really fast or being really annoying, sorry about that in advance. So I'm going to get started. Did I miss anything from the intro, Euan?
No, I think everything. That the idea that I think Zoom classes tend to be a lot more teacher-centered, just because it's a new area for lots of us. So this is trying to put the focus back on the students as much as possible and encourage creativity, teamwork, task-based learning, all these kind of interactive things that we do in the classroom that I think we're finding harder with Zoom.
Exactly. I couldn't have put it better myself. So the first activity of the 10 is show and tell, and I've given a trick away there. So the first one is show and tell. Now, something I loved when I was at school was the day I could go in and take a little piece of the Berlin Wall that my mum had got. Absolutely loved it. I could show everybody. But the things I couldn't take in were things like my dog, who's laying down on the floor there. And also, there are so many things you can't take in. So this is a great opportunity for students to show you something that they love. So, for example, I could show you this lovely candlestick holder that my father made for me. I could show you this spirit level from the early 1900s, or of course, my favorite book, and I could describe it for you. There are all sorts of things you can do. Maybe you could even show somebody your favorite item of clothing, maybe. So I could show you my lovely TESOL t-shirt that I had and talk all about the way I got it back there in Salamanca. But of course, other wonderful things you can do now, rather than just sharing screens all the time, because that can be really, really annoying. You can just ask your students, hey, show us a video or show us a photo. And rather than always sharing it, you can simply chuck it up there on the camera. Oh, there he goes. And you can do a simple what happened next, and you can hold it up to the camera. So what I'm going to do is wind this back to the start. See if anyone can guess what's going to happen next. Euan and I have a tradition, and that is to get wet on New Year's Day. Can anyone guess what's going to happen? You can only see slides. You can only see the dog. That's not cool.
Nice dog.
It is a nice dog. I'll stop sharing then. Right then, so you can only see the slides, you can't see us. There we go, spring into the water. So here we go. I'm going to press play. You can see what happened next. And you can see there that Euan didn't, in fact, jump into the water, and he left me stranded, which was nice of him. But yeah, just doing that with the students, getting them to just hold it up on their camera is super easy. But you can also do it with photos as well. So you can do this like describe the picture, so you can get as much language in there as possible. You can get students to guess perhaps where it is. So where is this?
Norway.
No, could be Norway. Looks like a Viking in there.
Jamaica.
Hardly newer. Any ideas, any guesses? It is in Valencia, very good. And it is obviously, as you can tell by my attire, it's Euan's patio, and it was in fact at Euan's wedding. So I made sure I was at the US Congress. That's very topical, fantastic. I made sure I was dressed appropriately for that there. So I'm going to get back to sharing, and I'm going to hand over for our next activity with the delightful, the wonderful Mr. Euan Paul.
Okay, hello everyone. The next activity, I'm sure you've all used this. This was my go-to activity with kids at the start of Zooming around, well, Zoom lessons. And then I've slowly moved it on to teenagers and adults. And it kind of links into a little bit ideas of show and tell, that students bring their life to the screen. Basically, it's a scavenger hunt. If you can see this picture, this is an image I use with my younger children. And I simply say, okay, kids, you've got 10 seconds to find something rubber. Boom, off they go. I count down to 10 seconds. When they come back, they all go, I found something rubber. And then they tell me what it is. If you want, you can make it competitive and give points to them, the most interesting one. For higher levels, for teenagers, I've decided to use some adjectives that, I don't know, they're pretty useful adjectives, these, and they don't really come under sort of any lexical kind of unit, but they're used in everyday English. And my teenagers found this really, really interesting. They love running around the house, finding something cute, something filthy, something heavy, something colorful, and they'd come back and they'd show me. It was a really good kind of breaker mid-lesson, and also a really nice way to end the class. And beyond vocabulary, you can actually use grammar. and this is something I did recently for a revision lesson, again with teenagers. I mean, there you've got the present perfect, you've got going to, you've got would like, and they had to go and find something related with this grammar. And one little twist with this activity, you can also do this as a kind of running dictation. You set them off into breakout rooms, send them a message on breakout rooms, find something old-fashioned. When they both find something old-fashioned, they come back to you in the main room and you give them another clue. And so they're flying off, all their breakout rooms are flying around their house trying to find different activities, working together, and they're fully involved in everything they're doing. So it's a really fun activity, and I'm sure you know it. It's just thinking about giving it a little twist, demanding high as much as possible.
Yeah, and okay. Another thing about that, you mentioned briefly the breakout rooms. You can do it in teams as well. So especially if you're working in a state school and you have a lot more students, you don't want to wait for them all to come back, 30 students to be like, look, I found a glass. Yeah. So you can set like 5 of them, or you can set that whole page, example, glass, wooden, light blue, turquoise, and you can send them off in the breakout rooms. That way you've got the timing as well. So you put a 5-minute breakout room and you go there, and then whoever comes back, whichever class group comes back first, could be the winners. So hide and seek, this is something we prepared, well, I say we prepared earlier, Euan prepared earlier. Hide and seek is a great way of getting to know the students and getting to know like their houses as well. Obviously ask permission before you do any of these things. But what we've done, Euan and I are huge fans of extreme petanque. Because it is the greatest sport ever invented. If you haven't heard of extreme petanque, find out about it. It's the greatest, easiest sport to do in the world. We often go on romantic walks, and I was going to say something a bit crude there, but I'm not going to. But anyway, Euan has hid the jack somewhere on the ground floor of the house. So I know that it must be in either the living room, the hallway, the kitchen, or the bathroom. So I'm going to ask Euan, is it in the living room, Euan?
No, it is not in the living room, Harry.
Is it in the bathroom?
The bathroom's clean. It is not in the bathroom, Harry. Okay, it's in another downstairs room.
It's not in the office because I'm in here, so it could be in the hallway. Can you go and look in the hallway, please?
Good modal of deduction there, Harry. I like it.
Thank you very much.
I'm afraid to say, Harry, it is not in the hallway.
Well, can you go into the kitchen, please?
Of course. Here I am, in the kitchen.
Okay. Can you look in the drawers?
In the drawers, yeah?
It could be in the drawers. You don't need to show it with the camera because they're probably untidy. All right, you can see there my cherry pitter. Love that cherry pitter. Can you look in the oven, please? It could be in the oven.
In the oven, yeah? Not on the oven.
No, in it, please. In it. Voila. I didn't know that was there beforehand. That was completely a coincidence. Very good. So we found it.
There you go, Harry. You win.
So this is another way of getting them involved and bringing it down to bringing it to them. And again, they can, show you. You can change this into just showing them around the house or introducing to your family. That's another thing for show and tell as well. You can introduce family members and describe them and so on and so forth. There's so much scope. It's wonderful.
And like any activity, you decide the language you want to crowbar into it. There we were doing prepositions of place, we were doing modals of deduction, and we were doing just general household vocabulary that's quite useful, that again doesn't always feature in books, but something like a drawer, it's a really useful piece of vocabulary. So very flexible. Okay, oof, Mr. Put. I think this idea is from a colleague. And when she studies past simple, irregular, she renames her students. She does this in live classes. And so they create a new identity. And you can use this idea with Zoom. And it works especially well with Zoom because you've got the rename button. So you can obviously study past irregular verbs, and suddenly they've changed their name. I mean, here we've got Mrs. Doodid, Mrs. Read, she really liked her name. Mr. Put, my favorite name, Mr. Werewar, Mrs. Take Took. And instead of using their names, they start using their new identities to refer to each other. And it's just an idea of kind of drilling that piece of grammar, vocabulary into their head in an inventive way, really.
And another really fun thing about it is, I mean, we were talking in the chat about getting shy students speaking. It's really good to give students like that different persona, so they can kind of, they're not being shy about themselves. So suddenly Mrs. Hit is, you know, she's come out of her shell. Another way to do this is let them, you know, hide behind, even wear masks and stuff like that. But anyway, don't stop just at past simple verbs, you know, or even at Mr., Mrs., so on and so forth. We've got Reverend Goodwell, MC Badly, careful. Her Royal Highness Fast. So we're going here with adverbs, obviously. And then Master Quickly.
Yeah, these are good names.
They're great names.
And students love inventing them. They love
you don't need to stop with that. So you've put in these new titles that we don't really talk about ever in textbooks. But then maybe you want to go back to kitchen vocabulary. And we've got Captain Bread Knife there. DJ Kettle in the house.
DJ Kettle.
DJ, because whoever knows what a kettle is? Nobody.
Or a DJ.
Cup of tea. Of course, the righteous Sir Draining Board and Dame Cherry Pitter. So they're just a few little ideas for that one. I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you there, Euan.
No, it's fine. Your ideas, they're better than my ideas, Harry.
That's not true. They're our ideas, Euan.
Students really enjoy this activity. It's a really kind of one of those daft activities that students kind of think, oh my God, what are we doing? But they all get on board massively with it. And it's a huge, huge buy-in with it.
So this one is a very, very simple chat box game. Chat boxes are brilliant. I love chat boxes because everyone can talk at the same time, which is we don't have that leisure in class, really. We can't let everybody speak at the same moment. But here, especially with Zoom, it's really good because they can send it directly to the teacher. So you could say, who's your favorite singer? And they'll send it to you, and I'd obviously be looking through and go, Justin Bieber, very good. Who do we think Justin Bieber is their favorite singer? Oh, well, that's obviously Euan. Of course it's Euan. And then we'd move on and say, I don't know, you read another one. Oh, it's Taylor Swift. Great. Whose favorite is Taylor Swift? Everybody knows I'm a bit of a Swiftie. So
2019, Harry.
I know, I am so 2019. It's terrible. It's outrageous. I need to get down with the kids again, don't I? And listen to fill in the blank here.
Nina Simone.
Nina Simone, yep, absolutely. I love Nina Simone. But anyway, we're not just going to sit here and chat about the music that we like. It can be about anything. It can be favorite food. It can be, you can decide it, get the students to send it to you, and then they have a nice little vote on it.
It's a brilliant warmer and really good at the start of the lesson to get everyone on board with speaking English.
There we go. Now, Songversations, I'm not going to describe it too much to you. I'm going to show you a video. I love Songversations. I imagine you've heard of me speaking about Songversations in the past. Songversations came about because I am one of those really annoying people who does really annoying things. And when we drive along in the car, I would sit there and I would have a chat with the radio. So whatever the artist was singing, I'd say it back to the radio. And my wife, being the genius that she is, said, you should probably do this in your lessons because that could be really good. So I decided, right, I'm going to start doing it in my lessons. Now, I'm not just going to sit here and describe it to you because it'll be really boring. So I'm going to stop sharing and reshare again because I don't think I'm sharing sound. Ooh, nearly a schoolboy.
That's the biggest Zoom scare.
It's terrible, isn't it?
It's the scariest thing. Oh, it should do it automatically. Zoom should automatically do it.
It's outrageous. Okay. Here's my flip grid. It's awake. Oh, that's nice. It's playing up with me at the moment. I'd had the bright idea of getting a new computer right before doing this session. So here we go. Let me know if you can't hear, although my chat box has also just died.
Good afternoon, Taylor. My name's Harry. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. I'm really sorry I'm late. I kind of got stuck in traffic. I did send you a message. So, what can you show me? Fantastic. So, what sort of things? Okay, it's a strange mix of things. Next question. Now, what did you think when you first saw me? I'm going to take that as a compliment. It seems like a nice thing. So what do I look like? Well, again, I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. Tell me, last question, what do you think about love? Well, that's incredibly forward, Taylor. Thank you very much, but I'm a happily married man, so I'm going to end it there. Thanks very much for your time, Taylor, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, so as you can see, I had my chance to speak to Taylor Swift, which was a dream come true for me. And yes, students absolutely love this. It can be a 5-minute activity. It can be a full class activity. It can be a project. It can be homework. This is when I get asked to go and substitute for somebody, this is what I do without fail. I always do Songversations. They absolutely love it. So
it's one of those activities where students at the start, I'll be honest, students are a little bit, what? We're going to speak with Taylor Swift? What's going to happen? And at the end of the lesson, they're just, they absolutely love it. And it's really good for project work or homework, like Harry said. Produces a lot of English, a lot of good English.
Exactly. And I'm sure a lot of you are like examiners as well. And you've sat there in a PET and a first exam. What do you think? Well, in my opinion, I couldn't agree more. That's it develops not only the questions, but it develops the natural conversation, the reactions and stuff like that. So yeah, the discourse and the interactions that are quite hard to teach. Yeah, but very natural when you're doing Songversations. Right, let's see if I can figure out how to get back to the presentation. Right then, over to you, Mr. Paul.
Okay, well, we mentioned Songversations and setting that as project work. This kind of ties in. This is getting students to do investigations. And I'll be honest, my Zoom classes, especially the teenagers and especially the children, the first thing they say is, are we doing some investigation today? It is all about the students. Talking about Taylor Swift, imagine there's a reading or listening about musicians. You give them each a musician to research, send them off into a breakout room and say, you've got 5 minutes to find out as much information about X, okay, X person. If you give them the same person, imagine they are all researching Diamonds. Is he from Green Day?
Yeah.
Imagine they're all researching him, then they need to find out different information, so not the obvious information, which requires a lot more in-depth reading. and yeah, they enjoy this one a lot. And you can also add a twist to it by getting them to focus on grammar and vocabulary. As I mentioned earlier, in my academy at the minute, we've got exams, and I wanted to revise vocabulary and grammar. And I thought, I'm just going to send them off, boom, into their breakout rooms, and they can study it on their own. So they're in a breakout room, they're sharing screen. You've got all this functional language here that you can drill beforehand. And it's using language in its authentic use of language, rather than sometimes textbooks kind of, it doesn't feel that real. They really start using this language as we would like them to. Anything to say, Harry?
Lovely. What is the capital city of Burkina Faso? Would be a question I would put on there without a doubt.
And you can also, you can get them to create the questions. So, for example, the grammar here, we've got the typical comparatives, superlatives. The previous investigation, they wrote the questions, and they all knew that Usain Bolt was the fastest man in the world, but none of them knew who the fastest woman in the world was. So away they went, did some research, came back with some information about her. Do you know who's the fastest woman in the world, Harry? Florence Griffiths.
Oh, Flo Jo, did they call her? I can't remember.
Yeah, Flojo. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. You Twitch. Now, this is basically hot seat, but you're forming it in a way that students kind of pretend they're going to be a YouTuber or they're going to be a Twitch streamer, and you put them in the hot seat. Now, you can do this in various ways. You can do it in the way that they've prepared themselves. So let's imagine they've done the breakout investigation and they are Taylor Swift. They can then come in with this other persona that they are Taylor Swift, and they're asked questions about her. Or it can just simply be for any project that you've done. If you put the spin on it that they're a YouTuber, they're going to be a lot more confident in there. This is also really good in hybrid classes, when you can have somebody who's in the actual classroom right in front of the camera. So the people at home are asking them the questions and they feel like they're being interviewed. Kind of turns almost everything into a project.
And it links, Harry, perfectly with the previous one. They can do homework, or even in class, they can do research on the person. So if I am Taylor Swift, where would I say that I was born? Okay, Tennessee, boom. And the people who will be asking the questions obviously have to research, what questions would I ask, or what questions will they not know?
Exactly. And with the revision part as well, it can just be a straight up sit down and then fire the revision questions at them. And like, it could be one person who's there and they could all take their turns. So it's remarkably versatile, even though it is basically hot seat.
But what you mentioned though, the difference of hot seat is a huge amount of role play and getting into character, which, you know, speaking another language, acting is an enormously important part of speaking another language. Absolutely. You take on a different persona. I mean, I know when you speak in Spanish, you're not exactly the same as when you speak in English. And our friend Ian as well, the same. So, how to, now this is something that I used to do in my classes many years ago. I'd bring in my kettle, I'd bring in the loose leaf tea, because obviously you don't use tea bags because they have plastic in them and so on and so forth, but we're not on that train at the moment. At the moment, we're talking about how to. I used to have a class where I'd teach my students how to make a cup of tea. Euan's off to make one for us now, which is nice. And then we'd sit down, we'd have a chat. You put the kettle on, mate. Yeah. Thanks, love. We'd have a chat, and then I thought, well, this is really good. It's a bit like the show and tell, but you can get students to really show things. You know, so you can take them home. Maybe they love origami, and they can show you how to make a crane. Or my daughter is really into karate, but in her classes, she can't show her friends how to do karate because she can't put her whole outfit on. So you can really
talk about what the students love in this and how they can show the other students how to do it. And you can get them all on screen then. They're all there, all trying to do, I don't know, dance sevillanas or make a cup of tea. Obviously, you don't want to do that with your 7-year-olds. Go on, guys, go stick the kettle on and pour some boiling water into a cup. Parental advisory here, don't do that.
Mate, drawing. Like some kids love drawing. This is how you draw. I remember I had one kid who wanted to show everyone how to draw a castle. He had mastered the technique of castle drawing, quite a difficult technique. And he shared the screen, showed them how to do it. And they all sat there and drew the castle while he spoke. Well, he used like the word portcullis, I think. Like incredible vocab he was coming up with.
But yeah, so it really, again, it puts the emphasis onto the student. As we've mentioned, as an online teacher, you kind of need to bring more energy to keep it alive, but you also need to know when to kind of dampen that energy down and pass it across and hand it over, as it were. Now, we've got about 15 minutes. We've got just under, I think, 15 minutes. It is going to cut us off bang on 10:30. Now, this mind game section, it is, Euan and I actually have an hour-long talk based on mind games. So what we're going to do is kind of reduce it a bit into hopefully about 8 or 10 minutes. And then if there are any questions, maybe we'll have a couple of minutes at the end to answer them in the chat. And I'd also like to quickly mention the renewable English behind me. So would you like to begin, Mr. Euan?
Yeah. Like I said before, I think ending a lesson on a bang is really important. Finish the lesson on a high, full of energy. So students go home happy. Really, really important in both online and in class. I'll be honest, Zoom, I've been using so much more mime. And quite often you just send a message in the chat box to a group of students who then they mime. But if you're just doing typical miming all the time, it can get a bit tiresome. So you've got to think of varieties. You've got to think beyond just pure vocabulary. You've got to start thinking about sentences. So yeah, the idea of TPR, really establish gestures for pronouns. Me, you, we, they. For tenses, you can get students to go into breakout rooms. Okay, I want you to come up with a gesture for all the tenses that you and your team are happy with. Boom, TPR. And then beyond that, so example, you could ask the students to mime with no arms, which is really difficult. You feel incredibly confined. But Harry, could you mime the emoji of
I'll tell you what, I'll do an emoji and you guess what it is.
Go on then. Oh, is it the vomiting emoji?
There you go.
Very good. You went the right.
How about this one?
Cheeky, funny with the tears.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. So for now, that one's really good, but what about if you ask me to do something else? What else could we do? Like, I don't know, a banana with no arms.
With no arms. Go on then. I've never seen a human more look like a banana in my life.
All the yoga, mate. All the yoga that I do.
And again, it's a daft activity, but they're revising the vocabulary. You can make it vocab based or lexically based. Beyond no arms, you can just use fingers. I did this the other day with directions. Go straight on, turn left, go past the thumb, go past the index finger, go under the ring finger. They were doing this in breakout rooms, doing fantastic descriptions of their towns on their hands. And they even drew their town on their hand. So fingers can also come into play. What else have we got?
I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop sharing, Euan, because people can't see us. So we can just say what they are because they don't necessarily need to see it, do they? So we've just done fingers. Next is sounds, which you can do with the camera on or off. So sounds which you can do with the camera on or off.
Yeah.
So Euan, could you please, for my kids, I might do this. Could you please do the sound of giraffe? What? There's a giraffe in my house. Well, the dog's really upset by that. She's like, there's a giraffe over there.
Thank you for that.
That was beautiful, but obviously you can do it with the cameras on or off. So I'm going to ask you. I'm going to do a sound for you, Euan. Yeah. I'm going to do a day of the week.
So not just animal vocabulary.
Not just animal vocabulary, Euan. Come on, think outside the box.
Go on then.
Okay, a day of the week. So the first one. Let's see if anyone can get this. Oh, Euan. Oh, everyone got it in the chat there as well. It is. What do you think, Euan?
Sunday evening.
Oh, Sunday evening. Controversial. Incorrect. Oh, somebody else put Sunday evening. Very good, Maria. It was Monday, I'm afraid. Okay, now I'm going to do another one here for you, if you're ready.
Oh,
Euan.
It could be 3 or 4 days.
Okay, which day do you think it is?
It's Friday night.
There you go. Obviously, I'm not a drinker, so it is Coca-Cola. So it would be a Friday night. In Euan's house, it's basically any day that ends with a Y. It could be any of those. So there were a few of them. We also do, the next one is freeze, Euan, if you want to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if any of you remember 5 years ago, the mannequin challenge, where kind of a school would all do this challenge. And the idea being that someone with a camera walked around a school or a hospital or an office and everybody was frozen in the middle of doing their action. Okay, example, if Harry was in his office, he'd be frozen like that. Again, do this with miming. Send a group of people a word, a sentence that you want them to perform, but they don't perform it. They are perfectly still and they don't move. Harry, I'd like you to do a sport for me. Okay, a sport. Come on, that is the most, yeah, it has to be the best sport in the world, extreme petanque. Good. Okay, now an Olympic sport, Harry.
Is extreme petanque not an Olympic sport?
Not yet, sadly. Oh, it could be shot put, or it could be javelin. Judging by the strange position of his Jeremy Beadle hand, I would say it is javelin.
There we go. And the last one there that we have is mouthing. This is the last one in the miming unit. So just mouthing is really good for pronunciation. So
do you want to mouth something to me?
Okay.
I love Stranger Things. I love extreme. I love extreme petanque.
Yeah, Joanne, you're my hero as well. Very good.
Did she get it?
You did. You did. There are loads and loads and loads of these games. We are into the last 5 minutes, so I'm going to go back and share my screen again because I'd like to go on to the last page here. We're going to say thank you for watching. As I mentioned before, we do have that last mime session as a full session. We have lots of other sessions prepared as well. So please do get in touch if you want a session for your school, for your academy, for whatever you like. Please get in touch. All of our details are there. Renewable English is something that's a bit different to this. Renewable English is my climate change awareness course that we're working on. We're going to be going live with our actual classes, live classes on the 9th of April. But we do have a bank of recorded classes if you go to renewableenglish.com. They're also on YouTube. You can also join our Facebook group. Yeah, please do follow us, send us an email, whatever you like. And then, yes, Euan, would you like to say anything? People are saying in here, thank you, great ideas, great fun. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Love the ideas. Would you like to say anything?
No, I think just to reiterate something I said at the start, that Zoom, it does become a lot about the teacher. And I feel a bit of a hypocrite because me and you have been speaking non-stop for 45 minutes. But students love breakout rooms. Students love being in control, and trying to make Zoom lessons as much about them doing things as possible I think it's the key to good lessons. And bring in creativity, be it group work, TPR creativity, I don't know, bringing it onto the online platforms, as you know, as we do in the classroom, is one of the most challenging things, but one of the most important things as well, I think.
Excellent. And just one more thing before Jess says, I'm sure, a few fun things. This session has been recorded. So if you want to go back and watch it again, by all means do. Ignore like the first 5 minutes of, you know, the warm up. We weren't being silly in that at all, obviously. We're true professionals, and we stayed focused. Did anybody notice, by the way, that I changed my shirt? Because I didn't see anyone say anything. That's another little game that I like to do. I like to change things in the background. I like to change things that I'm wearing and see if the students notice it. Normally the students do, because the students care.
Mate, it's because your shirt is equally awful.
We used to be friends, Euan and I. Now we're just dads of kids that are friends.
Well, mate, you had a really loud shirt on, and now you've got a really loud shirt on.
Mate, look at how can you say they're so different? They're so different.
It's just colours and shapes to me, mate.
We're going to hand over to Jessica, I think. She's waiting patiently there.
I didn't notice that you changed your shirt.
You've changed your shirt, Jess. You've changed your shirt.
But I was concentrating so much on what you were saying, I wasn't looking at the shirt, unfortunately. That was brilliant. I'm sure you can see in the chat box how many fantastic comments and great feedback that you're getting. We've got a couple of minutes left. There were a couple of questions. I know, Harry, you can see the questions probably in the Q&A box.
Oh, I can, yeah. I open it.
There were questions about renewable English, which you've already answered. One person asked here about the songversations. Does the teacher always choose the song?
That's up to you. I usually do the first song with them in class, and the way I do it is I go through the first verse with them as a class, and what I do is I translate all of the lines exactly into their L1. So in this case, Spanish. So they know exactly what it means. So they can then figure out what sort of questions they want to ask. Maybe they want to figure it out first, how they want to say it in Spanish, to be honest, because some of these like phrases are really complex. So I always do the first one with them. And I usually do Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran, something that's remarkably easy. I know that Ed Sheeran's no longer cool. He's so 2017. But the songs are really slow and they're really easy to do. Basically, I would vet them. I wouldn't want them all coming on with, you know, songs that are full of swear words. I'm not sure it's the best idea in the world. But yeah, I would definitely vet them with the students. But I tend to do the first one in class with them, and then I kind of send it for homework. But yeah, you can also do it. This is great for breakout rooms as well. Let's say you've got a song with 4 verses. You give a different verse to each group and they go off and prepare it, and they can make their own interview video for it. You can put it all together at the end, turns into a huge project. So there you go. That's 20 minutes of them in a breakout room of you monitoring, thinking, this is great. Making your cup of tea. I mean, no, you're not making a cup of tea, you're monitoring.
You're changing your shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Changing your shirt. You've seen my live classes with the BBC. Constant changes.
Okay, there's a couple of questions about renewable English and your slides, but I'm sure if people get in touch with you, sort of contact you afterwards, they can find out more information about that. And it's not actually in the Q&A box, but we've got 1 more minute, and it was in the chat box, and I'm sure we all really, really want to know a little bit more about extreme pétanque. So if you could finish off with that.
Okay.
Where to start?
Yeah, so pétanque or boule or bocce, you may have heard of it. Some people say it's an old man's game. Ewan and I have rebelled against that because these guys, they go and they play in their traditional court where you just throw the ball at the jack. No, we've gone mad for it. We go to the olive groves. If you search for Valencia de la Concepcion, home of extreme pétanque, there's a video on it. Go on, Ewan.
Of course, no, olive groves, cliffs, not non-dangerous cliffs. Obviously, rivers are great because you
Played in a river once.
Basically, car parks with no cars. That's quite difficult.
Yeah, trampolines. We did it on a trampoline once.
Oh, are you videoing this?
No,
if not, you should.
The thing we do with extreme pétanque is that's the time where we leave our phones at home and we go off and have a mandate.
It's me and you time, Harry. It's bonding time.
Yeah, we need our time, alone, together. So it's our date time.
It's been, gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure and loads of fun listening to you. I'm going to draw it to a conclusion now. Just to remind anybody that's with us that there's a 15-minute break until the next session, actually about 14 minutes. So if they want, they can go off and visit the community in the chat box. I know Harry is very active in the community, and visit the exhibitions, and there are lots of competitions that you can take part in, so please just have a browse around what's available and
feedback for this amazing session.
And feedback, yes please. Okay, so once again, thank you both of you very much. That was massive fun, and hopefully we'll see you around the conference as it continues. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Jess.
Bye everyone. Thanks everyone. Thank you, Jess. You rule.
Bye. Do you want a coffee, Harry?